Good afternoon, distinguished guests. My name is David Yang, and I am a partner at Lin Law Firm's International Practice Group. It is my privilege to moderate this special session with Mauricio Macri, former president of Argentina. Mauricio Macri served as the president of Argentina from 2015 to 2019, a pivotal figure who broke 70 years of bipartisan dominance in the country. During his presidency, he worked vigorously to reintegrate Argentina into the international market. Prior to his time as president, Macri was a successful entrepreneur, chairman of Boca Juniors Football Club, congressman, and mayor of Buenos Aires 2 times. In recognition of his influence, he was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world twice, in 2016 and 2018. Currently, he serves as executive chairman of the FIFA Foundation, where he combines his passions for education, football, and creating better opportunities for young people. Let's go straight to the question then. I remember how during your administration you always wanted to reach a social consensus on everything. Even though you wanted to reform the society, bring about structural changes, but you always wanted to follow democratic rules, democratic consensus process, which is apparently the current government is lacking. Many political analysts view Milei's reforms as aligned with those pursued by your administration in the past, but more rapid and more effective. What made Milei's shock therapy viable in a country that has been dominated for the last 80 years by populist politics? For example, the blanket reform projects such as Omnibus Act, I've been reading about that, and I would tell the people around me that it's not going to be possible. Argentinians want to go out the streets and protest. They are not going to allow the president to reform so many laws with a single act. But, apparently, in June of this year, Omnibus Act became law in Argentina, which was quite a surprise. I wonder what happened in Argentina that made that change of mentality possible.
Except removing the foreign exchange restrictions, he had done an incredible job, an amazing job in cutting the fiscal deficit. He did it from the very beginning, and he inherited more than 6% of fiscal deficit over GDP. We're talking about a huge number, no? And he did it cutting national expenses, transfer to the provinces, and many other things. So that is really unbelievable. I think that never happened before, except after a war, globally. Now, what is even more remarkable, and that you are mentioning or suggesting in your question, is the incredible Argentine mindset change. Argentines now are open to change as never before. Of course, after suffering 70 years of populism with those ruinous ideas that have destroyed our country. But now, this is what makes me so optimistic about the future. That is much more important towards what Milei is taking ahead. And we agree in this point that the real strength of Argentina today is the Argentines' mindset change. Now they understand that they have to go back to the culture of work, to put their own effort, and not depend anymore on the state, and really fulfill the commitments, and that's the big change. So I'm really very optimistic, and I feel that Milei is really committed to continue with the main anchor that he has now, that is no fiscal deficit. Argentina has been under fiscal deficit for more than 70 years.
Yeah, that's when around 1945, Argentina started to close its borders. It started to implementing protection measures for its market. The rule of entropy implies that if you don't work towards one direction, things will return to chaos. That's the rule of entropy. When Argentina faced that most horrible financial crisis, social crisis at the end of 2001.
And one.
People were saying, we're going
The
to have
last of many, no?
I know, but I think that's the one that really hurt because that affected people's saving. I was living in Buenos Aires back then, and it was really a nightmarish thing to live with that. We were thinking, after that, we're going to have 100 years of deficit in education. People will not realize how important effort, work, and discipline are. But now it seems that this change came to Argentina without much effort, and it's very hard to understand how, I don't know, for example, is it out of hopeless situation? People say, oh, this is the bottom, but we're still digging in a deeper hole, and one day they realize, no, we have to change. Is that how this change came to Argentina?
Maybe, but you know that there's always one step more down to. It's clear that our main challenge, David, is how to regain trust. And there is only one way. There are no shortcuts. We have to stick to our promises around keeping macroeconomic balances. And the anchor is cutting the fiscal deficit. Argentina had been under fiscal deficit for more than 70 years. That destroyed our economy. You talk about the 2001 crisis. We had many hyperinflations. We have averages inflation over 100%. When we talk in Argentina, we talk in monthly basis. Now we are reducing inflation towards 3% per month. Imagine for Koreans living in an economy with 4% per month. It's impossible. No? That's why maybe the best financial managers of the world are coming always from Argentina because they learn to survive with those levels of inflation. No?
I know when the Greeks and Turkish or Turkey, people of Turkey, they were having severe financial crisis, they were requiring Argentinian economists
Absolutely.
to be their advisors at the
like,
forefront of the world.
So I think that we have to keep fulfilling our commitment, and that will regain trust, and that will regain investments in the country, because opportunities in Argentina are enormous, are uncountable. So it's a question of, again, show the world that we understood, and that now we are going to fulfill our commitments, and we will keep the rule of law.
Yeah, some of my friends in Argentina, they are still lamenting the way that your project was suddenly stopped because people got tired of your so-called gradualism. And some of them will say, well, maybe instead of gradualism, we should have applied some shock therapy as Milei is doing now. But on the other hand, some commentators also say that actually your gradualism was a very effective and successful policy to prevent social unrest in Argentina during a time when Chile and Colombia were going through massive social uprising. For example, in Chile, the social unrest forced the Chilean government to cancel APEC summit and COP25 Chile was going to host in 2019. It's not very clear to see, but the undercurrent of Chilean social situation. So that was very interesting. But having implemented such a wise policy, gradualism, that didn't secure a second term. So many people supporting you, they are heartbroken when that happened. So I think with that experience in mind, you should have a very valuable suggestion for President Milei how to achieve social peace, long-term social peace with economic prosperity.
But again, David, at that point, the Argentines' mindset today is not the same that they had 2015. In that moment, the populist government of Cristina Kirchner was leaving, having spent all the money at the central bank, so the level of the economy was reasonable. There were no recession. So there was a crisis behind the scene, but it wasn't evident. So that was a completely different momentum that what Milei inherited. Milei inherited already a visible crisis. So now people, again, it's so remarkable how the same citizens that were complaining when I raised the tariffs, because populism, that I expect that we will have time to talk a little bit more about that, they start, for example, giving for free the energy. Free energy costs less than a glass of water or a coffee. And they say, why not? No? And when I start raising the tariffs, that was a huge crisis. Demonstrations on the streets, people complaining, my voters complaining. And what I raised in 3 years, Milei did it in 2 months. And nobody complained, because now, after 4 years of the disaster of the last, I expect, populist government in our history, they finally understood that, well, that wasn't the right way to reasoning, no? That the state can finance everything, and everything can be free, no? For free. That's ridiculous, no? So this is a different momentum. So Milei has to rush, because now people is open as never before to every change. So he have to privatize or close all the state companies, reduce all the costly programs that have been useless, and keep balanced economy so as to regain the credit, because Argentina, for decades, you have to purchase your home cash because there's no credit. There's no economy that can grow without credit. And that thanks to the longest inflationary period of the world. Doing some numbers. No? Let me share with you some numbers and the audience. Argentina, 1915, 1930. Argentine GDP was like this. The US GDP was like this. Less than 15% difference. Today, we are less than 5% of the US GDP. In 1950, Argentina was bigger than Italy and Spain together. Now we are not even half of either of them. We were bigger than France. And that's because of this economic disorder that lasted 70 years. Fiscal deficit, high inflation, hyperinflations, more than 8 defaults. That destroyed the rules in Argentina, the trust in Argentina, and that this is the big change that is coming in Argentina. No? So this is the main problem that we face. And now Argentines finally understood that the only way to succeed is working. Yes, and get rid of these ruinous ideas, that is populism, that started in Argentina in 1940 and rapidly extended to the rest of Latin America. But now, let me tell you, it's not anymore a Latin American threat. It's a global threat. So maybe now that we are getting rid of populism, the world is going into populism. So I see, what are you doing? When I saw the United States giving billions and billions of dollars to keep people at home during the COVID and the lockdowns, say, this is crazy. This is something that we already done with labor plans, that we call them, for years, raising the expenses, ending up printing money and going to inflation and impoverishing all the citizens. That's what happened with the US with the 10% inflation. So that is something that Argentines are living in the past. Okay.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's very contagious.
Yes.
So if you want me to give one advice to the Koreans, is be careful with populism. And more than ever now, because together with populism, now we have a new phenomenon that I call it the expectations era. Thanks to this incredible technological revolution that we are going through, and now with AI is a new dimension, with impacts in genetics, robotics, and education, and healthcare, and everything. But already the impact that this technological revolution had on the communication systems with these global news platforms and the social media that you are aware of any crisis around the world by the minute. Of course, bad news, because the good news travel by horse, no, still now. But the bad news travel in a second. No? All that had changed things in such a way that now we citizens nowadays receive in 1 month more information than in our whole life 15 years ago. No, so every citizen nowadays is millionaire in information and billionaire in expectations. And that's why, because everybody knows what the neighbor have. So the demand is, I want more. And that in that moment is when the populist leaders show up and say, here I am, I'm going to give you more. Give me the power, the whole power, because you want fast solutions. So no Congress, no independent judicial system, no free press. Give me the power and I will guarantee you a wonderful present in exchange of your future. Because they start spending all the citizens' savings, starting by the reserves of the central bank. So you have an initial period that's wonderful. It's like morphine, no? Giving out the money of the central bank, the reserves of energy for free. But when they get out of, they run out of resources, they start printing money. So inflation rises. And soon, very soon, everybody starts to impoverish. That's populism.
It's like a pact with the devil.
Absolutely. But together with these expectations, they have a very attractive narrative. So that's very dangerous. That's why it's contagious. And now it's affecting central countries of the world, not anymore Latin America. So be aware that that is a very attractive narrative that cannot be only opposed by one part of the political system. The private sector has a very important role discussing against this type of proposals because they destroy the culture of work. They destroy the meritocracy. They talk about that the state has to provide everything because you have the right. You don't have any responsibility, but you are full of rights. And that had destroyed my country because it was among the 5 wealthiest countries of the world. And now we have 50% poverty, thanks to these ideas. So be aware of this and fight against this, because the most exposed countries, David, and people here, are the wealthiest countries, not the poor. Because the wealth is, for the populist leader, is piece of cake. They open the central bank and start giving out the money. No? So that's the way they work.
And that is even further power because this element called expectation, right? Because there is a fine line between objective inequality and inequality is perceived by an individual because they can have all the things that people in South America want, but they feel they are poor. They feel that they don't have anything compared to maybe chairman of Samsung Electronics.
Of course, and they always they are very intelligent only in creating this narrative. They always blame the rich and the powerful. Yeah. They are responsible of what you don't have. So let's fight against them. No, so let's expropriate the companies. Inflation, the responsibility of the inflation are the supermarkets. No, because they raise the prices and the energy costs because of the companies. No, so and they start destroying the system until the moment that the people realizes that these ideas are ruinless. May take 70 years, like took to the Argentines. So it's very dangerous. This is now a global threat, and we need to work together, private sector and the healthy political sector, to fight against them. Because again, when you tell a citizen, I'm going to give you everything for free, it's a very nice proposal. No? So we have to be alert.
To wrap things up, thank you very much again, Mr. President. You've been very kind to us, sharing your personal experiences and details about what's going on in Argentina. We are really hopeful that Argentina, with all the wonderful things it has, that things that we didn't have time to mention is literature, is landscape, is asado, the food, the
The
tango,
barbecues
music,
are unique,
and economic prospect, the
beautiful
resources,
people.
beautiful people. I hope that with all these renewed efforts coming from the government and this change in mindsets of Argentinians, they really pull it up and make tomorrow happen today.
And it's happening. So looking forward to see all of you in Argentina. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. We don't have time to take questions from the floor, but thank you very much for your attention.